I was a portrait photographer. I was shooting with two women who were doing all black and white film portraits, and they were just using natural light and they were going on location. And I knew darkroom work. I learned darkroom work in high school, and not that well, actually. I got better as I went, but I offered to do their printing in exchange for going on shoots with them. And they said yes. And I started printing their work, and they had a beautiful darkroom. It was small, but it was great. And they printed on beautiful paper. Their work was really just absolutely lovely. And they started taking me on shoots with them, and then we got a studio space in a barn, so we were able to then do simple lighting and have an indoor-outdoor space and have the clients come to us. So I kind of grew with them as well, but they were great mentors for me. And just starting in film was a nice way to start. You learn a lot with what you can do in a darkroom, and take that with you. But it was never my passion. It was just where the opportunity was. And so I was also studying other types of photography, and I was working with other photographers. So I was doing all kinds of things. I shot weddings, a little bit of music, just anything so I could figure out my path. And then I had an opportunity to work for local newspapers shooting sports. And when I got that gig, I never looked back. I absolutely loved it. There was no doubt that this is what I wanted to do. And I was good at baseball because I was a baseball coach for my son. So the baseball photography felt more natural to me because the more you know the game, the better you shoot it. And I thought I knew football. But when I first started shooting football, what I thought I knew and the reality of what I really knew was very different. And so it was a learning curve more than I expected. But then, it just grew, and then just shooting all these different sports, those local newspapers. So I was shooting youth sports, high school sports, college sports, and then eventually professional sports. And it was just a terrific journey, really, of learning everything that I needed to. When I was shooting baseball, I was great. When I was shooting football on dark fields, I realized my gear wasn't the right gear, So then you're really learning on the job of what you need. And I had a lot of people helping me along the way, a lot of great mentors that are still great friends to me today. So now I'm trying to teach and complete that circle and give back like they gave to me.
Was that a difficult transition initially, going from portraiture into shooting sports? Because the demands, photographically speaking, are very, very different.
Very different. And the baseball was good because I was shooting the baseball and it was mostly day games, and I knew the sport and I had access. So I was able to work with the gear that I have and still make some decent pictures. When I moved to football, which happened right away, it was one of my first assignments. I went to my first high school football game. It was really dark, and the gear that I had absolutely was not going to cut it. And the game went on, and I was not making pictures. And even though it was cold, I felt the sweat dripping down the back of my neck as like the game was over, and I didn't have anything great. And I had to go to the sports editor and say, hey, I had a few problems, but I'll have it all solved by next Friday. Don't worry. It'll all be okay. And he said, okay, yeah, just send me what you have, though. Send me the best. They have a deadline. And I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't really get very much. And, we went back and forth, and the emails got quicker and faster. And so quickly I had to learn and get the right gear to shoot sports. And my friend connected me to Michael Zagaris, who's the San Francisco 49ers photographer and the Oakland A's photographer. And I met with him the next week, and he let me know that I did have all the wrong gear. And then I was able to get some loaners and start shooting. And then I also got to learn from him, and he started taking me to games, and I had the opportunity to assist him. So I was learning on the big field so I could get my small job done. And so it was very fortunate the way things worked out. And he was just so helpful to my career. But the portraiture came in quite handy. I think portraits are probably the hardest thing to do, right? Connecting with a person. And sometimes you have very little time to do it. I think everybody should learn how to do portraits because it just helps you with whatever job that you have. I mean, the portraiture that I learned before, just helps me so much in what I'm doing now. It helps you with everything. And Michael Zagaris, who was one of my first sports mentors, nobody was better at using a wide angle and connecting with people fast. And he could make just incredible behind the scenes of games, and the most exciting stuff for him happened before the game even started. So learning from him was a different style that I took with me. So it's all about your mentors.
Yeah, and I think there's a huge element of portraiture in sports photography, especially if if you imagine like shots. First of all, also behind the scenes shots, shots that happen in between the actual gameplay, where the sort of emotions really show, depending on what's happening in the game. Like the game might be going totally the wrong way and people might be disappointed and it might all be written on their faces. And then, being able to capture that is, that's really what makes sports photography so beautiful for me anyway, because I always think that, over here, there's a lot of football or soccer, as you call it. And rugby. Actually, rugby is the other thing. I think rugby is a big thing over here.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's like I was just thinking about like, soccer photography. I mean, there are only really so many images you can take of somebody kicking a ball, as I always think, and it's all of the stuff that happens in between the gameplay that always fascinates me. Again, from a storytelling perspective, I'm always fascinated with that. Like the reactions, like, somebody scores a goal and then, just look at the face of the goalkeeper, like the disappointment and the pain. Maybe they've just realized that they've lost the whole game, at this point or so, I always find that very, very fascinating.
Oh, exactly. It's exactly right. I mean, you're right. Action is exhilarating, but it's only a part of the story. So with every action, there's a reaction, reaction, action from the athlete. What's the reaction of that same athlete? Maybe they scored a goal and you're getting them roaring. That's the reaction. Action, reaction. They score the goal. The goaltender is crying. Okay, that's a reaction. Action, reaction. The action happens. The fans cheer. That's a reaction, right? So where are you pointing your camera? What are you looking for? Maybe the fans are sad. Action, reaction. Oh no, we just lost the game. Action, reaction. What are their teammates doing? Maybe he score a goal and the teammates are going crazy on the bench. What's that reaction? So it's really being aware of the whole story of what's going on, and certainly not just capture the cheering. Like you said, let's get the heads hanging too. That's where the real emotion is. We have too many cheering photos, I feel like, out there. Everybody's roaring. And roaring's great, but it gets boring too, like kicking a soccer ball. So what else can you make?
Exactly. A friend of mine, David Williams, calls it the Eiffel Tower effect, where everybody takes the same picture. The picture of the guy cheering, the guy who's just scored the goal, for example. Everybody's going to be focused on him and everybody's going to take the same picture, but it does pay off to actually turn around and see what else is going on. Because for every goal scored, for every goal scored is what I'm trying to say, there'll be a goal lost almost on the other side, so it's always this two-sided sword, and just turning around and looking at what's happening away from the main action can actually make for a much better story, in that sort of context. So that's that's the thing that fascinates me.
I was shooting the World Baseball Classic this past March, and Colombia was about to get eliminated, and there was a chance that they wouldn't even make it because of the scoring, even to the next world, even qualify for the next one. So there was a lot on the line for them. But when you're playing for your country and country pride, it's pretty powerful when you're wearing, that flag on your chest or your country on your chest. And so those games come usually with a lot of high emotion, whatever the sport is. And as like the game was winding down and it was tight, I knew my job was going to be to run over to Colombia's bench and ignore the winners.